Gotta get ready for Christmas just in a few days. Gotta get the old suit ready and... Oh, hello, my friends. Merry Christmas. Just a few more days till Christmas comes. And it's always good to see you. I've been so busy, but I always have time for you, my friends. David and Julia, it's so good to see you. I've been watching you, watching to see whether you've been naughty or nice. And I've used my crystal ball, because remember, I can see you when you're sleeping, and I know when you're awake. I know when you've been bad or good. So be good, for goodness sake. I've been checking my list, and checking it twice, and I'll be visiting you very soon in Maryland. Now, David and Julia, I hope you're listening to your mom and dad, because they're very good folks. I thought I'd tell you a little story. It's one of my favorite little stories. It's not exactly a Christmas story, but it's one I like quite a bit. It's called Miss Twiggly's Tree by Dorothea Warren Fox. Isn't that a silly picture? Oh my. Funny Miss Twiggly lived in a tree with a dog named Puss and a color TV. She did what she liked and she liked what she did, but when company came, Mrs. Twiggly hid. It's not that I do not like people, she said, but one gets a bit shy when one lives in a tree. She named her dog Puss. He didn't mind that. My best friend, he said, is a cat. Oh, Miss Twiggly was friendly with bears. They'd shed on her sofa, but who cares? They don't find me odd, and I'm grateful for that. I don't think they'd mind if I slept in my hat. And just to be sure, she slept in her hat. She slept in her hat, but made up her bed, and swept, and she dusted, until the bear said, they were thoroughly tired of being so neat, and refused when she asked them to hold up their feet. Now Puss was a smart dog indeed. He did the shopping for things they would need, groceries, clothing, and tools for repairs, bones for himself and jam for the bears. But whenever he shopped for Miss Twiggly's meals, the town dogs teased and snapped at his heels. So poor Puss shivered, and scared as he could, he hurried back home to his safe and sound tree. Miss Twiggly and Puss were happy up there, high above ground in the house in the air. Simply disgraceful, said the people in town, to live in a tree and never come down. The wife of the mayor was maddest of all. Do not be at home when I come to call. It's unforgivable, and besides that, I have been told she sleeps in her hat. My husband must know of a town law, she said, against things of that kind going on in a tree. She marched to the mayor. Now what do you do? What can you do? That house in the tree, it's spoiling our view. Miss Twiggly's a nuisance, no town should allow a person to hang up her wash on a bough. The smoke from her chimney is causing a fog, and she lives, so they say, with some bears and a dog. Oh, the poor mayor sighed, my dear, I agree, but more pressing problems are bothering me. The weather report says it's going to rain. I fear we are in for a wild hurricane. It did rain for a week, and a month and a day, and the wind blew a gale, and the bridge washed away. The town was cut off, its people afloat. Whatever went by they used for a boat. To the road in the meadow were one stormy sea, and right in the middle stood the house in the tree. Old Mrs. Twiggly had battened her hatches and checked her supply of tea and dry matches. String up some hammocks, she called to the bears. Push, you build platforms for spare bread, beds, and chairs. We may have some callers, and wet ones at that. So I'll go change the boughs and my best sleeping hat. I'll get right to work on a big pot of stew, and to be sure there'll be plenty to feed quite a few. She put on the kettle and buttered some bread. And now let them all come, I'm ready, she said. They're coming, called Puss, who perched way up high in the tree, holding a spyglass close to his eye. Ahoy, called the mayor, Miss Twiggly, yoo-hoo. Is there room in your house for a wet friend or two? There's room for you all, Miss Twiggly replied. Come up here, it's warm, come up and be dried. And they hauled up the mayor and the chief of police and sweet Trudy Wilmot, the groceryman's niece. The pigs came in their trough, and a wet mother cat arrived with her kittens aboard a straw hat. See the straw hat? The dogs of the town came swimming right up, big dogs and small dogs and one frisky pup. But plump Mrs. Honk was afraid of the stairs, and little Joe Pettibone didn't like bears. Don't fret, Mrs. Honk, Miss Twiggly said. You won't mind the height once you're tucked into bed. And Joe, my big bears are as tame as can be. They won't spill a crumb when I ask them to tea. In the very last boat, bedraggled and wet, was the wife of the mayor, looking upset. She felt so ashamed of the words she had said, when her hostess declared, I've fixed you my bed. There's the mayor's wife. Miss Twiggly's new friends were cozy and warm, sheltered and fed and out of the storm. Through the wind made the rain go splittily splat. The mayor's wife slept, safe and sound, in Mrs. Twiggly's hat. Old Puss was so shy, forgot all his fears. The town dogs were fun, he was glad they were here. They pretended the house was like Noah's Ark. They played games and they sang till long after dark. Looks almost like a Christmas party, doesn't it? Now the townsfolks were glad, just as pleased as could be, that funny Miss Twiggly lived in a tree. And Miss Twiggly found out something wonderful, too. When emergencies come, you don't think about you. You'll help all you can and never ask why, when the first thing you know, you forget to be shy. And that's the end. I hope you enjoyed that story. That's one of Santa's favorites. Now I want you to remember to be good and brush your teeth and comb your hair and comb your teeth and brush your hair. No, that doesn't quite sound right. But listen to your mom and dad and be very good. And I'll bring you something special this Christmas. Have a Merry Christmas. It's time for me to call the elves to song practice. Elves, it's time to sing! Merry Christmas, David and Julia.